into it. 3, 2, and I do believe we are live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Talking High Culture. We're here on another Wednesday. We got me, your boy, Ricky. We got Marco. We got Logan. And Chris is taking a piss right now. I just want to say, hey, shout out chat. We appreciate anybody that tunes in. And it's another Wednesday. It's 8/6/2025 at 7:16, and we're live from Northern California. Welcome to Talking High Culture. I'm going to stand right here. You guys are going to see me on screen, all caps. We're going to try to do some more personalized views for you guys, just to kind of see how the interaction between chat and the Talking High Culture boys, arises. But with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to Marco. Marco, let them know why we're here tonight.
I got you. Go ahead and take just that slightest step back. And we have Isaac Guzman hopping in saying, that's right.
Hey!
Thank you for joining us, Isaac.
Isaac, I'm right here for you all night, buddy. What's up?
We're here on Talking High Culture, the only podcast where grown men talk about their dads. But we made it a drink first. Today we're getting fatherhood stuff. Today we're getting into fatherhood. The stuff our dads taught us, what they didn't teach us, and the type of men that we're trying to become. Whether your dad was a superhero, a mystery, or just silently watching football with the shirt off in the living room, he is there for you, and this one is for you, Dad. Thank you. Logan, what you got to say on dads?
My dad never really said he was proud of me. He just told me, your room's looking clean. That's about all I got.
Chris, what does your dad say?
What's a dad?
Rick?
Kind of to touch on what Chris said, Daddy wasn't there.
Daddy wasn't there?
Yeah.
Change our words of where?
Take me to the fan. Yeah.
So what did your dad teach you either on purpose or on accident? My dad, he showed me that it's important to show up. He showed up when he could, the best he could. Was your guys' parents, was your guys' dad, was your dad emotionally present, Chris?
I'm gonna say no, not to dive too deep into my stuff, but my biological father wasn't there at all, and my stepdad, he was there, but more provisionally than he was like trying to raise me or really have talks or emotionally.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
What did my dad teach me? What did my dad teach me on purpose or by accident? Interesting. Let's see. If I'm thinking back to how I was as a kid and how I experienced my dad being a dad, I would say he was pretty teacher-like. He wanted me to understand the world that was going on around me if I had any questions. And he was pretty good at giving me answers that I was able to use up until now.
Mm-hmm. So because he was a teacher and he was very teacher-like, you felt like just the general way that you go about things is more like of a learning of a student mentality.
Yeah, like I would prefer like kids that I'm around when asking a question to know to get a good answer.
Mm-hmm. You want them to have like a pretty sound answer. You don't want them to get some kind of half-assed answer.
I want an answer that I wanted as a kid.
For sure.
Not because I told you so.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Everybody hates that answer.
Right.
Rick, what about you? What do you feel like you were taught by your dad, either on purpose or by accident?
So when I think about the concept of dad, me and Logan share the same dad.
Sure.
His dad raised me. I was essentially Logan's dad's first child. So in that sense, there are moments where I can reflect and be like, yeah, there's definitely some life lessons that he was like, maybe like kind of trying to dish to me on the low without saying it, But I can't think of a moment that I can reflect on to where there was like a very distinct thing where he was like giving me like a life lesson.
Sure.
He was always very subliminal with his shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was never like, the sex talk.
Yeah.
Like
No.
dad and son have the sex talk. We never had the sex talk, but he kind of subliminally told me one night, like, hey, you know, don't do this, don't do that, you know, but didn't like formally like make it a thing. So with that being said, like Logan was talking about, a lot of the time it was more like the teacher student relationship, you know, kind of separate from the father son thing. But I think that was just his way of trying to like dispel knowledge onto us, you know.
Do you think that the teacher student relationship, when it comes to fatherhood, is the is a style, like a certain approach?
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think that there's definitely an aspect to the relationship between teacher student because, in a sense, like father child relationship, you are teacher student. You know what I'm saying? So there was like a very fine line that we would like balance on when it like would come to shit like that. But for the most part, like that teacher student relationship, like it was a benefit. You know, like there was nothing like really negative about the shit that I was taught as a kid. So my overall thing was like, yeah, like my dad did teach me things, but it wasn't in like your normal like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. It was always like like
Lead
subjectifying
by example kind of thing.
or like kind of just thrown in there like on like a low key type of vibe, like you should do this.
Yeah.
You should do this.
He's doing the best he can to recommend.
We should do this without directly telling me what to do. He was telling me what to do. You know what I'm saying? So I respect that man a lot for that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when it comes to what we as parents say, because myself as a dad, Ricky as a dad, and then I don't know about these two yet.
Fur dads.
Right?
Fur dads.
Right? But they do have the fur babies as well. When it comes to the things that we say to our kids, and we are ultimately providing a lesson to them no matter what we say to our children. Every word we say, every action we take is either a lesson that we described or a lesson that they experienced. Yeah.
Real quick, you want to check on what our boy Isaac has to say real quick before we hop into that? Isaac said, how long did it take for y'all to hear back about the job after the interview?
It took me a minute. It took me like more than 3 days. I had to call him back for it.
And then he said, what about a father pushing a certain issue?
Pushing a certain issue.
So let's see. When it comes to fathers pushing a certain issue, I think that every person, every man is going to have their own priorities. They're going to feel that that they should push their own opinions onto their kid. And while it is important to raise your child with the opinions that you do hold value, like the opinions and values that you do hold, it is also important not to force the opinion onto the child. What? Oh, like so you could go back or?
Yeah, so move that over. So you can see. Sorry. I was trying to be subtle about it.
It's okay, because I could just start over. Like that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I was like, what are you playing? Anyway,
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Just because I just noticed there was a couple
You're good.
times I was getting overshadowed.
Just I'll circle back really
Ricky's
quick.
fucking mass over there.
When it comes to us teaching our kids anything that we say to them is a lesson that they've heard. Anything that we do, any action we take is a lesson that they've experienced or seen. So we have to ultimately make sure that we don't push our opinions and our experiences onto our children, while at the same time holding our opinions and our experiences that shape our values. They will be their own person at the end of the day. And my personal take as a dad is that will ultimately become its own life, its own opinion, its own thought. For right now, I know these things to be true. I know these values to be true and morals to uphold. So I will raise my son according to those. And if anything doesn't feel right along the way, that's a good way to check myself. And instead of just doubling down on what I previously knew, it's like, okay, I can go ahead and unearth that and be like, well, why do I feel uncomfortable about this thing? Hey, maybe it's not the right thing to do. Maybe I can do something different, be better than my dad, right? And I think that's ultimately is what it comes down to about being a parent, is just being better than your previous parent.
Exactly. You want to break the chain, right? Break the cycle.
I feel like I can agree that I'll be the first to go like as a perspective from a non-parent, but as like an uncle to, you know what I mean? So at least like being able to be responsible for my nieces when like I get to watch them and spend time with them and like try to instill like what I know to them, especially my one niece right now. Like I'm like that's like pretty much one of the main male influences in her life, because of, circumstances. So I try to make sure that at least like I can show her like sorry, what being a man is more supposed to be like, how how a woman's supposed to be treated, and also like how a man can take care of his house and like responsibilities, things like that.
How does it make you feel being a role model to another person?
It does make me feel genuinely really great and responsible. And I can relate that to the time when I was also dating an ex-girlfriend who I took care of her daughter for at least like a year or so. And that became a deep relationship because she was so young. The dad wasn't in life. So like she grew to know me as dad out. So that was hard. But like at the same time, there's this switch that I wish I could gain control of, because when I'm around like a child that I know is like a responsibility of me,
Pause. Because
damn,
I had no idea, bro.
damn,
what do you mean you had no idea?
this man just barged in and like,
You know what, Logan? I should make you be behind the camera the rest of the cast.
yeah.
I'm just trying to get my
Chris,
drink
continue.
But anyway, I'll try.
without
Let me
interrupting anything.
let me round it up. Essentially, just being able to feel that instinct when I'm around like a small kid. Like I've felt that since I was young, that instinct to want to be there, especially growing up without my own father figure, wanting to be that role model I never got. So even high school, doing childcare classes and everything, like I've always liked being around kids, taking care of them. So I feel that instinct always kick in, even when I'm out in public and I just see children around. Like there's something in me that like always ticks a little bit.
primal thing.
And yeah, where I'm like a lot more aware all of a sudden and everything. Like I'm a little bit more like, all right, is everything okay?
To kind of touch on what Chris was saying, I've grown up my entire life. I have seven siblings, six siblings, something like 6 or 7. I'm not counting right now. Regardless, there has always been, for the majority of my life, a baby involved. And me and my mom are like very like close, like as she is with all her children. Me and my mom are like super close. So like in the times when like my stepdad would have to be at work, like, and I'd come home from school, like I would step up and be like the male figure in the house, So having a baby around the house is fucking nothing to me, bro.
Yeah.
Just because I've grown up my whole life raising Logan, raising my younger brothers, raising my younger sisters and stuff like that. Go ahead.
So my experience is I had 4 younger brothers that growing up, so I was the oldest of 4, and I had maybe 9, I think it's 9 years between me and the youngest 2, which are twins. So I had an experience basically raising them in diapers and then cooking and feeding for them. So
Changing their diapers and everything.
everything.
Yep.
Like I had the experience of raising, my younger brothers. But that to me ultimately pushed me in the direction of not wanting a lot of other kids when I did become a dad, because I was like, oh, I did not like the idea of taking care of my younger siblings.
See, and I respect that, and I can like resonate with that like ideal on that. But for me personally, being exposed to like all that infant care, like having to do the diapers, having to do the bottles and all the formula and the fucking boiling the breast milk and all that shit to make sure it's warm and shit, like learning that. So like for you it was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I definitely don't. Yeah.
Exactly. For me, I was like, I've done this already, it's fucking nothing. It's nothing to me.
Multiple times.
Exactly. It's nothing to me to fucking a baby here. I got it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Whereas for me, I'm again on that other end of the spectrum where I was the baby of my family. So I never had any, even like younger cousins or anything to really be around. It was just that instinct of like, hey, I want to do something that like I'm missing out on something, and I feel like I want to like know what it's like to give that away.
See, and I think it's crazy how we all share like a collective experience, but it's different. You know what I'm saying? Completely different spectrum for me and Chris. Like he's the youngest, never had that like nurturing fucking learning experience to where, because like I said, bro, all the time there was a baby.
Yeah.
My whole like existence, there was a baby around, a young person to take care of.
Mhm.
So, as being the oldest of my mother's children, like it's nothing to me. But because of my personal situation, you know what I'm
How
saying?
many times you've had to be a
Exactly.
baby,
Ex-
had a baby, have
ex-
to had a
Yeah.
baby around.
But-
Even as a young boy, bro, even as a young boy, like being around when our even when his older sister, my younger sister, was born, like just even in that aspect, I was like 5, and in a sense, had to step up and be like that older brother. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I've always carried that with me, bro. So like my own children got that like
Yeah.
nothing.
Which is again like that odd concept for me to try. Like I can understand it, but like again that opposite thing where it's like I never had that, but I've always been good at it since anytime I was around like younger kids. Like the older I got, and there was always just that natural instinct where I've always been able to take care of them. Like always been able to like be like that a parent essentially.
In our minds, in the male minds, I feel like it's it's integrated in us, bro. It's coded in us
Yeah, there
as
is a level
as
of-
males to want to protect
Mhm.
and provide. And when you see an innocent young life, it's just a fucking like thing that goes off in your mind to where like regardless of yourself, you want to take care of that
yeah,
Mhm.
young person. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Even if it's your kids or it's like random kids you see on the street, like something primal kicks in your brain and you're like, if something happens, I'm fucking looking after that guy.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
it's a
saying?
lot of responsibility,
Yeah.
you know. When it comes like that's why I asked Chris earlier about like how does it feel to be a role model to another, you know, to another person. It's such a strong responsibility that's put upon you as a man to be looked up to, right? You have big shoes to fill and then you have a shadow that you live in of your father, of your family, of whoever it is that came before you. Um, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. When it comes to the things that our dads did say to us, the things that our dads did teach us, there are some things that they didn't. So that's the unsaid stuff. Sometimes being a man to our dads meant being completely silent, and we're all still unlearning that. My stepdad, for example, he was an alcoholic through a large portion of his life. So during those times, he wasn't exactly dishing knowledge onto me, right? He was there, he showed up, right? And he picked me up when when he needed to. He took me to the practices, to where I had to go. I appreciate the hell out of him. I love him for that. But it wasn't until I was already an adult that he quit the booze, and now I'm actually having real conversations with him, right? So there are tons of things that I wish that I could have asked him then, but I'm starting to ask him now, and I'm actually getting responses. Things like relationship issues, things like fatherhood issues, like, hey, how did you deal with me when I was acting like this? And all these other types of questions that I am starting to be able to ask him now that he's able to give me a little bit more of a response since he's been off the booze for a while. And I appreciate the hell out of him for that. What do you guys wish that you could have asked your dad?
So not something that I wish I would have asked him. I just want to speak on this real quick. There was an instance, so like I said, my dad didn't really like teach me directly. It was always subliminal. But there's one instance that I reflect on, bro. And I reflect on this moment so much, bro, and it fucking trips me out to think that this man said this to me. But one day when I was a young boy, I was like 9, and we're driving in Las Vegas. And in Las Vegas, like you go through like neighborhoods and buildings and shit, and then it's like desert. And then you go to like fucking neighborhoods and buildings, and then it's desert. And then you go through like the strip and shit like that. And I remember we're driving over this section of desert, and a song was playing, and he had said something about the song. And I was like, that's impossible out loud. And he like turned around and looked at me and he said, nothing is impossible. And at the time, bro, like I didn't like resonate at all. I was like 9 and I was like, okay, whatever, fuck off, you know? But then I grew up and I had some very personal, deep psychedelic experiences. And I was like, anything is possible. I was like, holy fuck. He was right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I was like, and what's crazy is like, so to me, there's like a distinction between like enlightened people and not enlightened people. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
100%.
Our dad, I would consider a not enlightened person. He's very against weed. He's very against anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So, for a non-enlightened person to tell me to my face that anything is possible, and then 20 years later to sit there and like a DMT trip and resonate with that, be like, anything is possible. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like it hits deep. You know what I'm saying?
I understand that. Well, when it comes to my biological father, right, there were times that I had where I'd say I experienced something similar where he would tell me how to behave out in public, and he would teach me about being respectful towards authority, towards elderly, right? And I was just like, nah, that's dumb. I'm gonna do what I want,
That's
right?
gay.
Because I hate fucking what you're telling me. So I definitely don't want to hear anything that anybody else is telling me.
Yeah.
But when I look back at it, that is all I
Look
do with
back
my
at it, Marco.
when I look back at it, that's all I do with my son is like, hey, how much respect, is he showing the world around him,
Mhm.
and I get really upset when he doesn't show respect.
Yeah.
Logan the other day caught him throwing cheese on the floor, right? And I'm like, no wonder why the house is such a fucking mess, right? Like I'm over here trying to keep the house clean, and you're tossing cheese on the floor.
Yeah.
You know what his reasoning for that was, by the way?
What?
He said that because he got nervous when you asked him. What did you ask him? It was
Something about Pokemon.
I didn't ask him anything. I said,
Yeah,
"What's up, bro?"
yeah, I think yeah. Well, that's it. I think it was just that, right?
No,
he
low
said
key.
I'm like, "What up, Zoe?" You got nervous from that? Shut the
he,
fuck up.
he
Okay,
got no.
so-
You did. You're like something again, or no? It was
Asked him what he was
he was
eating.
eating something. You did. He said that you asked him a question. I did. I do remember you asking him a question,
was
but it was like a completely like whatever question.
Was it
But
about like
that
what he was eating or something?
maybe it was that, right?
Trying to
Oh,
guess
it was the
what?
Halloween shirt, right? He got embarrassed that he was wearing a Halloween shirt when it wasn't near Halloween, right? And like because of that, he was just like, man,
That's a
right?
cop out.
No,
Yeah.
my
Okay,
apologies.
looked
so
directly-
I like I get that. So like I used to like I was like when it comes to kids, especially like my girl's son, I'd be like, why is he thinking like that? And I would always reflect to myself, but you can't reflect on your own personal upbringing and then like implement it onto like kids around you.
Yeah,
To be like, when I was a kid, I would never fucking do that. Why is he acting like that? You know what I'm saying?
that is my first initial response
Exactly.
to that. Yeah,
Exactly. So, like, I had to like check myself and be like, "Yo, he's not me. He's not in the situation I was in when I was a kid. He's not. He doesn't have the parents I had when I was a kid. It's a completely different life.
yeah. My
Completely
son's got it
different.
way better than I did. That's
Yeah. So, I have to like acknowledge that and be like, okay, like as much as I like have an urge to implement my childhood like lessons and shit onto this young man,
Mhm.
I don't because it's a different situation.
different situation.
Completely. And I always think about that. I'm like, the person going through that situation, they have a completely different life than I had.
But where does a different situation come into the things of you needing to like kind of teach a lesson in?
Well, I feel like there's a line, obviously,
Exactly,
like
yeah.
there's a distinct line. Like
Yeah.
there are life lessons that are broad upon all people,
Yeah,
like
but who, like we were just talking about, who really decides the life lessons? Because it could be as simple as just looking back in the car and saying
and
nothing's
see,
impossible.
this is what I'm saying is there's no like definitive answer.
Yes.
It's always a balance.
Mhm.
I've learned that over time that it's always a balance. Like there's always going to be shit going wrong. There's always going to be shit going right.
Yeah.
And so you can't really be like, this is what you should do. You should be like, this is what you should do in this situation.
What you
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have your own free will and you're your own person. So do your own thing. So, like you were saying, yes, there are moments in all adult lives where I feel like there are distinctive lessons that apply to everybody. But then again, it's like you're balancing that with like the personal situation that your
Yeah.
child's going through, or
That's one
whatever.
thing that's very important is the different situations, the different circumstances do mean that the morals or whatever the life lesson that you're trying to teach ultimately has to be different.
See, and that's another thing too, is like that life lesson that you're being taught could hit hella heavy for you, right? Like it could hit deep. You're like, damn, bro, I really need to get my shit together. And then for somebody else, it could be kind of nerfed.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? You could be like expecting that person to get that same result, be like completely change their life. But to them, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you're right. I should like get my shit
Yeah,
together.
that makes sense.
So, like in that aspect, you got to check your ego and like realize, like I said, that your own subjective experience and the life lessons that you're taught doesn't apply like to everybody around you, because everybody's upbringing is different.
And then when you do cross-reference it, to bring it back to fatherhood, when you do cross-reference it to your own dad's experience or to your own dad's life, because one thing that I constantly do is I'm like, dude, my dad was dealing with me at the same age or at a younger age than I am dealing with my son, right? Because he had me at a younger age, or my parents had me at a younger age than I did with my son. So I'm like, dude, my dad was just a kid trying to figure it out. When he was 19, he had to deal with a 3-year-old.
Exactly.
Like what? Coming right out of a car crash, coming, right out of amnesia. So it's just like there's a lot of different circumstances that that were placed upon you as a child, right? That don't apply to your child, and any life lessons that you're trying to teach that are similar have to be altered because of those different circumstances. You can't do the exact same thing. It's not going to work. Like you said, you could think that you're going to have this life-changing effect on it, but a life-changing effect on them, but they could just be like, oh, okay, cool. Thank you for telling me that.
Exactly. My biggest thing is that you can't put yourselves onto them. You can't project your like experiences or lessons that you learned onto them and expect them to resonate, because it's a completely different life. You know what I'm saying?
I can agree with that.
And that's just like I've shout out chat, like I've always said, check the ego.
Check the ego.
You gotta check the ego and humble yourself and be like, this isn't me.
Mhm.
As much as like my parents were like this, I can't push that on this young child, because this young child didn't have that same upbringing. So
one thing that I think that I want to make sure my child does have during his upbringing is that he hears how proud I am of him way more than I heard from my parents, my dad, my mom, right? I do tell my son that I'm proud of him. I try to do it every day over something, right? He'll just be like, oh, I got this Pokemon card, or I did this. And yeah, maybe it didn't take him any actual effort, but I want to make sure that he does hear that I am proud of him, because he's a good kid. He's a bright kid. There's nothing not to be proud of.
see, and I respect that, bro, because I don't know. I don't know if I said this publicly out loud before, but I may have. Yeah, neither of my parents have ever told me to my face, like, hey, like, I'm proud of you, And like, as subtle as that may be, like, that shit hits deep.
Yeah.
So I make sure, bro, I go out of my fucking way to make sure that when I text my son, or I see my son, or my child soon to be, that like, hey, all the time, like, they're showered with love, bro.
Yes.
Like, no matter what, all you're gonna remember is like, if you think anything of me, you're gonna remember your dad being like, I love you, 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 I love you,
Yeah. That's similar to how I am, like, when we babysit my niece Freya. I'm always, even when I have to deal with, like, because I'm more of the stern person in her life a little bit.
Yeah.
So I am a little bit maybe more harsh, but I still will I treat her and talk to her like she's an adult essentially. And like, I let her know everything that's going on. But at the end of it, when she acknowledges everything that's going on, like, I make sure to tell her that same thing. Like, I'm proud of you for, accepting this and talking with me like this.
Exactly.
Like, I'm proud of you. And like, that's a very, like, especially since she's only 5 years old. So I'm like, that's a very big girl thing to do. Like, I'm encouraging her to do that and like express herself and have hard conversations and get through with it, because it is a good thing. And like, like we can all agree on, we've all pretty much are all in agreement. We didn't really hear, I'm proud of you from, the people we really wanted it from,
Yeah.
essentially.
To touch on what Chris is saying, I have a younger brother, So I'm the oldest. My youngest brother, the youngest, we're like super close. He's my dude, bro. Like I'd do anything for that kid. Um, I go out of my way to tell that kid that I'm proud of him.
Yeah.
You know, because like I know how deep that shit's gonna resonate like when he's older. You know,
Yeah.
to just like be that consistent like positivity. Like, hey, bro, regardless of how minimal your progress is in whatever you do, like I'm proud of you. You know.
It's,
And like Chris was saying, like I didn't have that consistent, like, hey, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you. So imagine what would have happened if I did,
yeah.
you know?
And I can also vouch for it's important too when they're younger for like even the littlest achievements that like they can feel that moment there like that's what instills like self pride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And helps in like ingratiate those morals and everything.
Because when you don't instill pride in themselves, they'll look for pride in the things that they identify with in other people, and then they start taking too much pride in these cliquey situations that they find themselves. Right? They become their whole identity. They self-identify with a whole clique, a whole niche, a whole aesthetic, a little too much, and then they lose their individualism when they don't have a strong sense of individual pride at a young age. Right? And then I'm saying that to really bring it. I'm going to be a little bit more direct when it comes to um, children who engage in the racism, right? And they find clickiness in that aspect, and they start taking pride in racial identity. It shows that they weren't really given a whole lot of self pride as a child. Like they had nothing to be proud of as them like on their own, only for what they were born as, right? And that takes away from a child's like ability to perceive,
Yeah.
the pride that they.
That takes away from self identity at that
Yes,
point.
yeah,
You lose all self identity and you just become one thing and then you get and that leads that could be a whole another topic.
yeah,
Like I don't want to get too deep into that, but like essentially what I wanted to bring it back to was like there's moments where I feel like it's important younger to instill that genuine pride over all these little things because someone like me, again, in my story, like I gotta keep watching it. Anyway, um, getting told like by those people that you want to be told you're proud of and trying to get that recognition is at those patronizing moments.
yeah.
Where it doesn't feel like it's genuine. It feels like, oh, it's because I did this that you have to say it. Like, oh, I graduated high school. You have to say you're proud of me for that. Like, regardless of what my struggle was throughout that or how hard it took me to actually graduate. Like, you have to tell me you're proud of me for doing it, even if it was an easy breezy thing. You have to tell me you're proud of me for getting my very first job.
Yeah.
Like those little things that like take away from what it is supposed to really mean because you never got the true recognition over what your real efforts were growing up. You never got told like, "Hey, I'm proud of you for actually fighting through and struggling
I have
through this and coming to me and talk to me." Like it was always, "Why didn't you talk to me sooner? We could have fixed this."
Well,
you're just wrong.
to
Anyway.
show my experience with that, I felt that I was never really given the ultimate or the truest recognition growing up academically because I was one of the smarter Latinos like in my class. Like I would be above the rest of my peers in that aspect. Right? And I feel like I would always get comments from my white teachers growing up of like, oh, you're very smart, for not for a Mexican, like being on the nose as that, right? But you're very smart compared to the other kids, right? And like every
It
other
was
kid
insinuating, essentially.
insinuating, that it's because of, or that, and
Because you're a certain type of race or from a certain
yeah,
culture or type of family aspect,
yeah.
essentially. With out here in California, I can kind of understand.
It was like, or even your English is very good. And I'm like, yeah, because I grew up here, right? Like, what do you, I
Of
get,
course my English is
yeah,
gonna
of
be
course
good.
my English is good. So I get comments like that sometimes, or you're very articulate, and I'm like, well, thank you. I'm just as articulate in Spanish. Let's see. We have kids are there to push boundaries and see what the boundaries are, and for you to be there to teach respect and boundaries while still being respectful. Yeah, because like by default, kids are little animals, and you got to teach some civilization into them. civilization isn't default. You do have to have conversations with children repeatedly until they learn the lesson. Uh, Logan, oh, wait till you're done eating your chips before.
Logan's been pretty quiet this pod, so
Yeah, well, he's munching on some Cheez-Its right
I'm
now.
gonna give him some time to shine for a little bit.
Yeah.
He's been pretty silent.
one
Logan, opinions on anything, or Marco, question
well,
for him.
I do have a question for Logan. It's going to be circling back to how we want to make sure that we tell kids that we're proud of them, or at least what is your experience having coached a couple of kids through basketball? What is your experience with the sentiment of pride during coaching? What do you feel proud of? Do you teach them to be proud?
Like, does it give you any type of feelings being that kind of role model for them?
Yeah, it's just I'm just trying to be a positive role model. That's try to make them feel accomplished in what they're doing, like they're not wasting their time.
You'd want to so you're trying to make sure that they're proud of their accomplishments and proud of the effort that they put in.
Yeah. hmm
What do you think that they'll ultimately get out of their efforts?
Upgrading their skill, starting their skills at a, foundation and building on that foundation.
That's true. And essentially, like, especially being a sport, it'll builds that ground and helps them develop aspects of teamwork and working together, taking other people's ideas and more communication, things like that down the road too. That are essentially life skills.
hmm
I guess another question I guess you could ask around that is with your dad having been more of a teacherly, fatherly type, do you feel like that has benefited you as a coach? Like any lessons of being more teacherly? Do you feel like you implement anything like that when you address the kids?
Or fatherly, even. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I mean, yeah, uh, maybe in like addressing yeah, no, I can't really think of anything.
It's fair. We're putting you on the spot, and you're pretty stoned.
Yeah, I'm trying to, yeah, I mean, I've only coached twice, so I haven't had too many situations where things have risen up and like, yeah, like maybe like 10 hours of practice time
Hmm.
with all like two of my teams. So yeah, like I haven't had too many situations that have risen up for me to like be able to comment about it. So yeah, it's kind of hard to like think of anything that rose up for me to be able to have something to pull from.
Elaborate on.
hmm
Sure. When it comes to coaching, do you think that just being a positive role model outside of coaching is important as well?
Definitely.
What does a positive role model outside of coaching look like to you?
Uh, doing things that you wouldn't want to. I don't know. Mm. I mean, yeah, trying to be a good role model is obviously like, yeah, I mean, but that means a lot of stuff. So it's like,
Yeah, like well, just anything, right? What's something that a role model should keeps kids from doing essentially?
I guess being negative.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just try to be as positive as possible when I can, how I can.
Positive role model would help kids be positive themselves and not be too negative on themselves.
Exactly.
Let's go ahead and
So
wrap up. Whether your dad was your hero or the biggest mystery, today is about understanding, laughing, and maybe just a healing a little bit. Because becoming a better man means unpacking where we came from and not just copying it. Thank you for joining us here on Talking High Culture tonight. We will be back on Monday or Wednesday. We're not sure exactly how this new scheduling is going to work out, but we'll be back at it again.
Got some stuff in the works, folks.
Don't forget to like all of our stuff on talkinghighculture.com. Sorry. Don't forget to like all of our stuff on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. Check us out on our social media, Talking High Culture on Instagram and TikTok. We got a couple of videos posted there. And please, please, please check us out on talkinghighculture.com where you can see some of our merch. We encourage you to think outside the blunt and check out our Sailor Space tee. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.